Tim Zallinger. I am the president and operations manager of Matsu Valley Rebuild. We are the nonprofit used and surplus building materials store here in the valley. We are having a fundraiser to buy a building. We started 4.5 years ago in my garage on Outer Springer Loop. I started collecting stuff to keep it out of the landfill, and people bought in. People were excited and donated stuff, and I sold it to raise money toward a proper home. So we collect building materials. We stay away from stuff that thrift stores take. We take doors, windows, lumber, siding, roofing, plumbing parts, kitchen cabinets, electrical fittings, light fixtures, building materials. Like I said, we stay away from stuff that thrift stores take. There's plenty of them. They've got that stuff covered. Our mission is to keep useful building supplies out of the landfill and available to all of our valley neighbors. If anyone's been to the construction and demolition cell in the landfill, you know there's lots of useful stuff getting buried. So over that 4.5 years, we've gone from my garage to a building, to rooms in the Trinity Lutheran barn, to a 5,000 square foot warehouse in Wasilla, where we currently are. It's up behind the Matsu Central School, back in that little mixed zoning neighborhood. We have run out of space, and we are raising money to buy a bigger space and a building that we can make our own by customizing shelving and storage and what we need for what we do. We need better parking, we need more space, but also the room to grow, to add buildings, to add on to buildings, and also a better location. Where we are right now, we are tucked in a neighborhood. We're hard to find, even for people who know about us and know where we are. It's a little bit of a search. We don't get any accidental traffic. No one just drives by. We're on a dead end. So the building we found is on the Palmer-Wasilla Highway, just outside of Palmer city limits. It's the old Refuge CrossFit building. It was the Red Barn thrift store for a lot of years. It's 2 buildings. We would take over the big building in the front initially. The back building is under lease that would survive the sale, but we would have that income for a couple years to help us with the transition. This new space would also allow us to evolve and add on some programs and services that are encompassed in the world of keeping stuff out of the landfill. We want to do a pickup service, so we would go and pick up big items or numerous items, things that people can't get to the store. We want to do a tool library. People can come and check out a tool for a week for one project rather than having to buy that expensive tool. We want to do workshops and classes on basic building projects, repurposing projects, home repair stuff, to inject some motivation and confidence into people. Even like a how to use power tools class. Give people the opportunity to try things and ask questions in a small, stress-free environment. We want to do bicycle department, where we would involve the local bike shops. We would collect bike parts and bikes and teach people to tune them and fix them and even build a bike from the ground up. All of these things, these programs we want to do, it's all about not only keeping stuff out of the landfill, but getting people excited and changing the mentality of what is waste in our society. So that's where we are. We're having a fundraiser. We have applied for city council grant that should be coming across your desks sometime soon. That's all I got. I don't want to take too long. I know you guys have a long night, so.
Does anyone have a question for him? That's about what he does, etc. Mr. Councilman. We should move to suspend the rules. Okay. Does anyone object to us suspending the rules so we can ask some questions? Okay. Councilman Alcantara.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Zallinger, thanks. I had no idea, not surprisingly to some of my colleagues here, no idea that you guys existed. And, as folks who here probably know, my father died before I turned 2 years old, and my council neighbor here over the way probably borrowed dozens of tools from him over the time that we were across the street neighbors, and pretty much what I've learned about it, I learned from him. But I wish I'd known about you, because I don't know if it was reusable or not, because I don't know anything about how to do projects. But I just did about 860 pounds of lumber to the landfill within the last few weeks when I tore out a front deck. So I wish I'd have known. So you don't know what you don't know, and it's good to know you guys have been around 4.5 years and tucked over there in Wasilla. But yeah, thanks for being here in front of us today, and we'll see where the next things take us. So thank you for your time and being here tonight.
Thanks.
Anyone? Councilman Best.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I was not, or at least it reminded me when you were talking about the bicycle aspect, and with the bicycle path right there by that location, I think that's going to be a great fit for you. I think that's going to be a great fit for the community. Also, anytime that we can say that something left Wasilla to come towards Palmer, that's a good
get a
thing.
little
So,
excited.
hey, we'll take that one. So I'm also intrigued about that, but also I like to try to, those do-it-yourself projects. I'm just kind of crafty that way, and repurposing some of these stubbed off pieces. I don't know if anybody's ever gone to the dump, and when you're unloading stuff in the back 40 and you see all these building materials, and I mean, we ended up asking and getting quite a bit of, like 2.5 foot sections, and made like full-size Jenga sets, and all kinds of neat stuff that you can do. And especially when you start getting the youth and those that haven't been through a kind of a process of being taught those kind of things, I think that's going to be really important. So I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Next we have reports. Our city manager looks a little different tonight.
Yep, he had a conflict and he had family in town, so he elected me to come in and fill in for him. So,
Lucky you.
yeah, So I do have a couple things to report. The first is that the police bike program is underway. The first bike is in and very active and out and engaged. The second one hopefully will be here during fair time, but more than likely in September. I think the chief says the program has been quite a success and quite a hit in downtown. And so we look forward to continuing that and making a bigger and better program. Maybe some skis in the winter, huh?
Absolutely.
Okay. The other thing too is we're the Wolf Architect, this starting on Friday at Friday Fling, we're starting to be gathering information related to library, rebuild, reconstruct, whatever the, gathering input not only from staff, from community. And so we will have more information to report back to the council here probably within the next month and a half or so. But we wanted to get a foundation to get started, to understand, what some of those things were that the community was requesting. The other thing too is at the next council meeting, you'll have a AM for demolition of a lot of the destroyed part, the destroyed roof over the kids section. So we're gonna demo that and then winterize it. There's no anticipated activity during the winter. We wanna make sure that in the event that it's an addition or a reconstruct, that we don't suffer more damage in there. So you'll see that at the next council meeting. And that's really all I have, unless there's some other questions that I might be able to answer on behalf of the manager or other staff.
Council have any questions for our manager's report? Councilman Alcantara.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. More just a comment to take back to our city manager, but also I'm glad the police chief is here as well. Had our management team meeting at Job Corps today, and they mentioned that the bike police patrol has been out there a few times already. They also mentioned, and I didn't hear about this, but they mentioned there was issues at the airport with people, stealing gas or doing different things, so that they would see that presence, which I assume is the same officer that used to be at Palmer High, to see that presence fairly often over there. But it's good. It's good for what goes on at Job Corps, and probably good for what goes on or what doesn't go on at the airport. But it was just mentioned hours ago to me, and that you guys know that definitely I think the public is liking it a bunch, and with the things we have on our agenda tonight, I think it's playing out as well. So thanks both of you guys.
Acting manager? You got your light on, I didn't know if you.
Well, I just wanted to note, we do have cameras at the airport. They were installed about 4 or 5 years ago, and they're piped right into the dispatch at the police department. I think it's been a real deterrent because there has been a lot of theft of gas, including my own airplane.
Anyone else? I wanna know who's gonna give speeding tickets to the bike officers, but that's, I understand they go fairly fast. All right, next is mayor's report. As I put in my report, I was mentioning that they're starting to gather input for the library. And I believe I had some pictures were sent to me so I could put them in my report. Library boards where people can write, and it's kind of the big question ideas, I think, is what do you love about the library? What would make your visit to the library more enjoyable and easier? Just some big questions to get people going. And I think they've also had those at the library so people can go in and start giving some input and kind of start with the big question ideas before we start getting into how many study rooms do we need or whatever. And I think that's all for my report. Is there any questions for me at this point? Okay. Next is the clerk, I believe. City clerk's report.
I don't have an official report, but I'm happy to answer questions. If anybody has any?
You have anything coming up in the next few months?
No.
Well, remind us again, when's the election?
October 3rd, it's election
Okay.
season. We have 3 people running for 2 seats, and
Okay.
we have 2 propositions.
Okay.
So that's the update for that part.
Which we should all have known that, but
Right,
hey, reminders, good.
There you go.
Any questions of the clerk? No? Okay, city attorney's report.
Yes, good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, you're quite loud, yes.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay, we'll adjust on this end.
That's understood. So I did do a written report answering regarding the MPO, which you'll find in your packet, and we can discuss that when we hit the MPO. But it gives a breakdown of the 3 resolutions or the 3 clauses for the resolution that the City Council requested that I add. The explanation of those 3 items. And then the update I wanted to give the City Council was regarding the operating agreement, which is following my written report, is the draft that has been returned from the Department of Law. This is from the AG's office, which is, this is going to be the foundational legal paperwork that creates the MPO. So it's fully authorized right now by the Attorney General's office and the Department of Law, and the 2 parties that are making a contractual relationship for this operating agreement, as well as it's going to operate as an operating agreement, the single document, and a memorandum of understanding. And you'll note that the Department of Law changed it from listing the borough, the city of Palmer, to the state of Alaska as the creation entity. So it'll be between the state of Alaska and the Matt Valley Planning for Transportation, which is the name of the MPO, and then outlining it. Some of the other edits, but which are relatively minor in nature. They're just emphasizing the state of Alaska's controlling role and kind of authorizing the creation of the MPO. So this is new, and I just wanted to update the City Council on that.
All right, does the council have any questions for the attorney at this point? Okay. All right. Next, we have audience participation. Yeah, you guys can argue over who wants to be first. So you get 3 minutes. Please come forward. Start with stating your name. Sign there. Just give some blood. Oh. Oh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hello?
It's on.
Okay, you can hear me now, right? Okay. Mike Molesky, live at 325 East Fireweed Avenue here in beautiful downtown Palmer. It's been my great pleasure to have interviewed the gentleman who spoke earlier today, Tim, when he was conceiving the idea, which was some years ago. And from time to time, as recently as I think about 6 weeks ago, I did a re-interview to see where he was in the process. And I just want to add my observation that I've gone over there a number of times for a variety of reasons. And it is one of those examples of an entrepreneurial activity that he did for the betterment of the community. And it works. And so I would urge you to consider any support whatsoever you can provide for him. At least in my experience, he's on the right track. Secondly, I've been looking forward to this for some time. I was made aware that there was going to be an event involving the bike in blue. Is that going to happen? And is that this weekend? Is that this weekend? 12th, which is this weekend, Saturday. And I was hoping that the chief would talk about it, but in any case, it's a ride with the person chosen. I'm not sure how that's going to be done within the police department. To ride that bike down by the river park there, and there will be I'm going to plan to be there. Certainly, I want to watch this. I want to be part of it, and I would hope that many of you also have an opportunity.
Anchorage has Coffee with the Cop and some of the things we came up with, Bike with the Cop. And it's something that we're hoping to have as an annual event or maybe even several times throughout the year. Coming up this Saturday on the 12th is our first annual Bike with the Cop. And Sergeant Zipski's reserved the pavilion over at the Mat-Su River Park. And they're going to gather there. Probably find more about it on our Facebook post and our media. I do believe they have stuff put out there. If you have questions, you can call. The public can call down to the police station and find out more about it. 907-745-4811. We look forward to it. Want everybody to attend. So, thank you.
Sounds very good. I think I'm safe in closing audience participation. So the cops have to pass a bike test before they can? Oh. All right. Not fall over. Next we have public hearings. Resolution number 23-024. Resolution of the Palmer City Council appointing election officials for the City of Palmer regular election on Tuesday, October 3rd, 2023. We'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to this? Come forward and have 3 minutes. This is for election officials. 3 minutes. This is for election officials. See, no one? Yes.
Move to approve resolution number 23024.
As well, yes, sir. It's both. Correct.
So would you guesstimate that those 8 folks are about 20 hours apiece or something? Or hard to say?
I never really thought about it. I've never
Okay.
changed the number, and we're just grateful for our election workers. So. And that's really
Yeah,
pretty
grateful
much,
to get the volunteers.
Pretty much how I put that together.
Okay, yeah, good enough. Thanks.
Any other questions? Councilman Best.
I would just like to say that I am on that ballot, and I would like to ask as a conflict of interest in that situation if I should recuse myself, and I will leave that up to this body.
To me, what's that?
Yes, sir.
Oh, ask the attorney, but, well, I think the procedure is that, I think the mayor makes a decision, but you guys can then override me. So, to me, that's kind of a matter of normal business, and I don't think there's any reason to consider that a conflict. So that would be my ruling on that matter, but if you guys want to object, we can call it to a vote. Okay, unless the attorney wants to chime in with some difficulty.
No, the attorney sees no difficulty.
Okay, thank you. All right, so Madam Clerk, if you can call the roll, please.
Councilmember Ojala,
Roll, please.
Councilmember Ojala, Harrington,
Yes.
Councilmember Tudor,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Moline.
Yes.
Okay, unanimous.
All right, next is resolution.
Quickly, the dates in the resolution are in error, and so I just don't know if that's something they can fix and put in 2022 instead of 2023 for the impact of the storm. I don't know if that's something we can fix here or what has to happen.
What, we're not sure what.
Just in
you're
the,
referring
oh,
to.
I'm sorry, in the
What
whereas,
page are you
in the
on?
whereases, on the resolution itself.
Okay, but
in the
what
where-
page is this?
Oh, that'd be page 45, I think, in the
Okay,
packet.
thank you.
Sorry about that.
Now, well, we'll get on the same page. That's
Okay, get on the
usually
same
a better
page.
thing.
Oh, it just says the city of Palmer was impacted severe winter storm 24 December 2023. We haven't
That's
gotten,
into the
we
future.
haven't gotten those dates yet, so I just don't know if we can take a red pen and put 2022 or what we have to do at that point.
Yes, we will, I will make sure that's fixed before I sign it. But that's a good catch. All right, anything else? All right, Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll, please.
Councilmember Tudor,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Moline,
Yes.
Councilmember Alcantara,
Yes.
Councilmember Best,
Yes.
Mayor Carrington,
Yes.
Councilmember Ojala,
Yes.
unanimous.
All right, next is resolution number 23-026, accepting and appropriating $5,000 from MEA Charitable Foundation to support the Palmer Police Department Bicycle Patrol Unit.
Mr. Mayor, move to approve.
Hold on, this
Oh,
one's
my
actually
bad.
under
Sorry,
public
sorry.
hearing. So we will open the public hearing. Look, we'll wait 2 minutes. No, we won't. We'll close the public hearing. And what's the wishes of the council?
Move to approve, please.
Okay,
Second.
it's been moved and seconded. Is there any questions or comments from the council on this? Other than to note,
Second.
okay, do we wanna have a little more background information from? Yeah. Councilman Tudor, do you have a specific question you wanna start with?
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
So I was curious as to why this is an expenditure. If we're providing training to this, to them, I mean, I'm just surprised it's an expense to the city of Palmer.
The acting manager will request the police chief to come forward and explain things.
Yes, so this does incur a little bit of expense. When our field training officer, they're certified to train new officers. And when they go through that, and then when they're acting in the role of a field training, they do get a half hour of overtime of pay that is in addition to the hours they work. It's an incentive that is very common, particularly in this state, but nationwide. And so they would still get that when they're providing that field training for the Togiak officers. So it does add a little bit. It's fairly minuscule, but what we get out of it is it gives our trainers an opportunity to do on-the-job training, if you will. Keep those skills fresh and up to date, because sometimes, and hopefully, we go maybe 10 years without having to train one of our own, right? Except for new people, in an ideal situation. And so sometimes those skills, training our fellow agencies around the state that are small. In this case, Togiak is a one-man department, or one-person department, and Palmer being team player said, yeah, we'll help you out.
Councilman Alcantara.
Kind of along the same lines what the mayor was asking. I was curious about had you done it before, but also the city of Togiak has a one-person police department, or is this person a village public safety officer or some kind of
No, it is
other
a
thing?
brand new hire police officer.
Okay.
They are forming their own police department. And a lot of the small communities around the state, they typically start out with one officer. Typically, they'll wind up being the chief of police, or, in this case, I think maybe the manager is fulfilling kind of that role. And so, yeah, but they're trying to stand up one, so.
Deputy Mayor Moline.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So out of interest for, I I think that it's a great idea. I do think that training and dipping their toes into other, helping to set up other forces is not a bad thing, certainly. But what I'd like to see is that perhaps maybe in the future, if there's some kind of federal grant or something to help sustain that, so where it's not necessarily just a thought maybe in the future, because it sounds like you might be asked again once you step into that.
Sure.
You're looked at as probably the SME. So
Councilmember Tudor,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Moline,
yes.
Councilmember Alcantara,
Yes.
Councilmember Best,
Yes.
Mayor Carrington,
Yes.
Councilmember Ojala,
Yes.
unanimous.
All right. Next, we have action memorandum number 23-043, authorizing the city manager to accept donations to the Palmer Police Bike Patrol Program by Denise Stats and Kelly Dolphy in the amount of $1,000. What's the wishes of the council? Is
Mr. Mayor, move to approve.
there a second?
Second?
So it's been moved and seconded. Is there any question? Councilman Best.
It's more of a comment. Here again, we have solid leading citizens inside city limits and outside of city limits now with them living outside. But business owners in the downtown area committed to helping the city and our community do better and be better. And I cannot tip my hat enough to these fine folks, and appreciate their willingness to commit to trying to help our police department do things a little bit differently.
Deputy Mayor Moline.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I would have to expand upon that as to what Mr. Best said, and business owners for stepping up, and I mean they said they would do it, and they did it, and I just think that is the epitome.
Yes.
Councilmember Ojala,
Yes.
Councilmember Tudor,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Moline,
Yes.
Councilmember Alcantara,
Yes.
All right. Next is action memorandum number 23-044, directing the city manager to notify the state of Alaska of the city council statement of non-objection of the license renewal of La Fiesta Mexicana number 3696. What's the wishes of the council?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any questions of staff? Councilman Best.
The obligatory, have we received any letters of objection via email or other means from the public?
No, we have not.
Thank you.
Okay. If there's nothing else, Madam Clerk, if you can call the roll, please.
Councilmember Ojala,
Yes.
Councilmember Best,
Yes.
Mayor Carrington,
Yes.
Councilmember Alcantara,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Moline,
Yes.
Councilmember Tudor,
Yes.
unanimous.
Okay, and then next is action memorandum number 26-046, directing the city manager to notify the state of Alaska of the city council statement of non-objection of the license renewal of Klondike Mike's Saloon number 649. What's the wishes of the council?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any questions of staff?
Question
Councilman Best.
of the clerk, have we received any letters of objection?
No, we have not.
Thank you.
All right. It's a good thing when we don't have any objections for these things. Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll, please.
Deputy Mayor Moline,
Yes.
Councilmember Tudor,
Yes.
Councilmember Alcantara,
Yes.
Councilmember Ojala,
Yes.
Mayor Carrington,
Yes.
Councilmember Best.
Tudor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had a question on the effectiveness of some of the added language. In particular, we're on page 91, under one of the last whereases, where it mentions City of Palmer Sports Memorandum of Understanding for the operation of the Matsu Planning for Transportation Office, Section 8, Title Termination. I just wanted to see what that would look like, just because I know there's some questions because it states here that we have 30 days notice to remove ourselves from the organization and be reimbursed for membership fees. Is that something that actually holds water, or is this wishful thinking on our part? I just wanted to kind of get a good understanding on that if I can.
Madam Attorney, did you follow that?
Yes, sir, I did. I appreciate the question. For clarity, I got that exact verbiage from the draft MOU. So this language is already in Section 8 under termination of the MOU. So in terms of supporting it, basically what we're saying, or what the city says in this resolution, is the city supports that verbiage within the memorandum of understanding in order to enforce an exit clause. So it absolutely has authority, and it's already in their operating agreement in terms of its validation.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Councilman Best.
Well, at the last meeting that we had when we postponed this one, I distinctly remember asking for the city manager to bring forth government to government relations. The city of Palmer goes to the state of Alaska, but then there's going to be this nonprofit in between that is going to be, and I mean, it's a game of telephone tag. And it's just like us trying to get answers to this. It's a game of freaking telephone tag. And, ironically, AML is this week. And that is a organization that is about supporting local control. And it's kind of interesting that AML hasn't taken any positions on this. And everybody is just kind of go along to get along. And I cannot pull the trigger on usurping the voice of the people that elect us here to be able to represent what's going on in our community.
Mr. Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Moline.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I would have to echo that as well. I know it seems like Mr. Best and I are in agreement on everything tonight. I assure you that's not always the case. But that being said, it does seem kind of resonates with me the fact that we did ask for that participation tonight specifically, and that if this is what we can expect, then that is highly concerning. I'm in the same position as he is. I'm a no on. I'm in the same position as he is. I'm a no on this responsibility, as well as what the dichotomy of the.
Still stick by the fact that I think this thing's going to happen with or without us. It's going to be another layer that we're going to have to go address, be a part of, regardless of how we vote on this. And we're going to have to work without a seat at the table if we don't eventually approve this thing. That said, I understand the frustration, and I don't know. I mean, I see the signatories now are just between an executive director of MVP, which I don't know if that he or she even exists yet, and the state of Alaska, and the rest of the folks are not signatories to it. So I think they're making moves to move on, with or without certain votes being made. I certainly would rather delay it again until the 22nd than have it go down. So I guess I'll just say that I'm still supportive of it. I still think there's $12 million out there a year to be had, and I think we should be a part of it. But I certainly understand the observations and thoughts of the previous two speakers. Thank you.
Councilman Tudor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Unless there's a time constraint I'm not aware of, I'm also supportive of delaying this. I mean, I'm not really here to necessarily support the MPO. I also not really here to necessarily support in government. We already have enough of that as it is. But my understanding with this vote is we're not voting what we want out of being part of this organization, but we can just leave. And again, we're not my understanding is we're not voting to be, we're not going to stop the MPO from being created by voting no. And this is what kind of makes it so difficult, because if it was a vote and we voted no, and this means we wouldn't be subject to the MPO, I would absolutely vote no. I don't want another layer of government. But my understanding is it's going to be there. And this could be some of the things that the representatives from the state of Alaska can help us figure that out. Because I want to be extra safe with this, because we are talking about adding on another layer. And this is a very contentious vote. I've heard from a lot of people, and I have heard from more people in support of the MPO than against it. But there's a large segment of the population against it for good reason, and I totally understand. So I do think we need to be extra careful with this and make sure we don't jump in without knowing how deep the water is. Thank you.
Well,
Mr. Mayor,
yes, Madam Attorney.
I can offer some clarity on the question just posed by Councilman Tudor. Just for a point of clarity, the MPO is going forward whether or not City of Palmer wants to be in it and be a member specifically on the policy board is the question going forward. So the state of Alaska has created the operating agreement with the current pre-policy board with the MPO. So that entity is going to be created very shortly. I'm assuming they just sent back this final draft. So after that, they just have to sign of the governor's office, and then after that, the policy board would
Moderate approach to it. But it's kind of getting to the point where the train is moving. So if we're going to get on, we need to get on. I could see getting on and trying to learn more about this, and that's the advantage of having someone at the seat. And that actually, if they go with our recommendation, we'd have two officials. I noticed it actually uses the words officials. So that implies to me anyway that they would be elected officials. But, so I guess, one of the things I did is I contacted Mike Brown from the Mat-Su Borough, because they said in August they were going to submit this, with all the resolutions during the month of August. And so I said, look, we're looking at this, we postponed, we're doing this on the 7th, are you gonna do it later in the month? And he assured me that it would be later in the month. So I don't, technically the city of Palmer and the city of whatever is a subdivision of the state. So demanding that we get a state official to come here and talk to us, I'm not sure is A, gonna happen, and B, would be wise even if we did it. So I guess I'm concerned with postponing it, but I don't know. Let's see. Oh, Councilman Ojo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me, I just put candy in my mouth. I think we should just vote. I think we should just vote on it. Let's do it. Let's get it on.
Be in the same meeting? Is that, Madam Clerk, is that the?
I have to look that up.
Okay.
But it is
For basically, so if we were to reconsider a vote that had taken, you have to call to reconsider. But it would actually come back at another meeting? Or?
Right, it will be on,
Right.
the person that voted on the prevailing sides.
So that would be like postponing. Mm-hmm. It's a complicated way to postpone. Councilman Best.
If you would indulge me a little bit, as we look back into the municipal planning over the last, 60 years, and we often read articles about how some of the planning tools and ways of going about the development of our country, they're finding to be having racial motivations, right? Some of the inner cities, black areas, and all this kind of stuff, where the municipal planning at the time was, as it being reflective back now, they're looking at it that it was harsh on some minority areas. Well, this MPO, as the manager had spoke about, These kind of MPOs have been in existence for 30 years. Minnesota and all this kind of stuff. How do we know that some of these hidden things are not also there? The structure itself could be wrong. This could be much like we've also heard institutional abnormalities or institutional former members of DOT helping to create the structure to work within the bureaucracy of DOT at a federal level and state level. And again, it's usurping the authority and the power of local governance. And I don't know that these things have been looked at a federal level, at the state level, if anybody's really paying attention. And I know that here we have folks that are willing to ask the questions. What we're failing to do is get the answers. So I'm a no vote right now. And until I can get some of these answers, I do not feel comfortable going forward.
Councilman Ojala.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we should vote on it. Thank you.
Councilman Tudor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With the city attorney in mind, just to make sure I'm on the right page, my understanding is that it doesn't make a difference as far as the MPO's policy making ability or their decisions whether or not the city of Palmer is part of it. We're just voting on whether or not we're going to be a voting member. But please let me know if I'm mistaken, because I don't really support the organization. To me, it's just a question of whether or not we're going to be voting members or non-voting members. But are you able to clarify that just to make sure I'm on the right page?
Madam Attorney.
Councilman Tudor, that is correct. The MPO will, the city of Palmer is in the urbanized area. That's correct. The only thing you're voting on with this resolution is, does the city of Palmer want to have a seat in the governing board? Because as soon as it's created, the policy board, which the city of Palmer will have a seat on, will be in the initial tasks of creating this organization. They will be passing the bylaws, they will be defining the projects, all the organizational activity will begin once it's, especially in the beginning, that's just how nonprofits work, once it's established. And the only question isn't whether or not an MPO is established or not, the only question is, does the city of Palmer choose to be a part of it, have a seat, and have a part of it in the sense that, do you want to sit on the governing board?
Deputy Mayor Moline.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I can ask the city attorney to clarify. We understand that that the MPO is moving forward. I mean, that's never been in question. And I do understand that if we make the decision not to be part of it, that there still will be plans and things that happen in the surrounding area. However, and according to their FAQs and to their pre-planning, it was stated that they can't necessarily come in and do something like right within Palmer city limits without our participation or vote. Am I correct? Still without our participation or vote?
Yes, ma'am. So my understanding is that in part. So it depends. Palmer's really advocating hard, and it's on the MPO. Then what I was informed was that, they put something forward and it's a project that's voted on. Then the nominating individual is the one activating that specific project. So that would be like Palmer's position, and they would have to provide a 9.03% match because they're the ones benefiting, and in the future sign a maintenance agreement. So let's say worst case scenario, the MPO somehow manages to activate a project within only city limits without the city of Palmer's authority. You can still kill it by refusing to sign a maintenance agreement or refusing to make that match.
Thank you for clarifying that. That was to my understanding as well.
Councilman Alcantara.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thanks to our city attorney for doing Newman's work on this. It's been a lot of work. I believe we have processed this resolution much for the better. I do like the fact that our elected mayor serves as the member of the policy board, and all documents go through him or her. I also believe, and city attorney can correct me, that it'll be up to the governor and the executive director of MVP for transportation to formulate what exactly the policy board composition will be. I'm under the impression that it's very likely to go back to a 2-1-1-1-1 situation where you have a 7-member board. I agree with my fellow councilman that I've heard more citizens that have talked to me in support of this than not. So I know my other council member wants to get busy and vote on it.
So even though the Matsu Borough voted to add that to their resolution, and City Council asked me to put it in our resolution, that really is only going to operate as an advisory. It's it's going to be the policy board, once this is created, that will vote to amend if they want more people beyond that 7 in the future. They're the ones that hold the clout with that.
Okay. So, I'm trying to think here of like a bad case scenario. Bad case scenario is, say we're not on this MVP, and they decide to change the bylaws so that they can override a city that doesn't have a vote in it. We wouldn't necessarily know if they change the bylaws and they try to ram things down our throat, as Mr. Best is afraid of. And so my argument is still, you need to have someone on there, even if you want to investigate and understand what's going on. Because in my opinion, I don't think the state officials really have much more of a clue about this than we do. And I'm not saying we have much of a clue. But, you know, so to me, I think it's a new thing, it's gonna be a developing situation, and therefore, I think we need to have someone in there, actively in there, and hey, if we get 2 seats, Mr. Best, guess what you would get to do? I mean, I think, because I think we need to have someone in there, and that's the only way we will know and understand if there's a problem, you know, and to call for change, because that's the thing. If you're trying to investigate something, you know, the hardest thing in the world is to try to slip somebody in to investigate, you know, to get documents, etc. But, and Madam Clerk, if you can call the vote, please.
Councilmember Tudor,
Move to postpone.
we already started the vote. Deputy Mayor Moline,
No.
Councilmember Alcantara,
Yes.
Mayor Carrington,
Yes?
Councilmember Best,
No.
Councilmember Ojala,
No.
failed.
So that's a 3-3?
3-3, sorry, yep.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Alcantara.
Move to reconsider our action in resolution number 23013A.
You can look that up.
We reconsider it till the next meeting, is that, that's what I understood.
I can call for recess just to make sure that things reconsideration.
Okay, we'll take a brief recess so we make sure we get it figured out exactly right. I don't think if Carlene was here, it would have changed anything. Yeah, I was trying, but, I mean, I'm not gonna cut off the debate.
Yeah, I'm not.
This is,
No, this is, oh, I'm not asking for you to cut off. I mean, no, I don't know. I think that, she had just as many questions as we
oh, I know.
I know, understand.
Okay.
with this caveat that it's to bring more information to us and let the executive body understand that this is about to fail unless we get some answers.
All right, and I'll say, we need someone with clout. Do you have more clout than me? You know, you and I need to,
AML.
okay.
So,
So that is a request,
Move to
reconsider. Does that require a second?
The motion, and then once we vote on reconsideration, and then I will ask to
right,
postpone.
with the specifics on your postponement
Yep.
and what you're requesting exactly.
Okay.
Very helpful, I think, John. Okay, so, go ahead.
I move to reconsider.
Okay, and does that require a second?
Yes, and then we vote.
Does it matter which side the second is?
No.
Okay,
So we don't have to vote on that.
say second.
Sheet two.
I said it, so.
Okay, well, I need to go get my other sheet. We're gonna have the same type.
Oh, your pen is with your other
I
sheet.
know, that's where it is, I left it in that.
Nothing like testing our understanding of Robert's Rules of Order. Dude, I don't remember ever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah, I
I'm
guess
trying to
this
remember the last time we had a reconsideration. I bet it's been.
Properly then.
I bet it's been. I bet Pipple was here when we were reconsidering.
Okay.
So it was seconded by Malene, is that right?
No, I did.
Oh, sorry, okay.
You can get all cancer if you want. Someone, but. Reconsider this motion. If it passes, it brings it back on the table,
Right,
and then we can figure out if we want to postpone or whatever. It doesn't, all this is to pull it back to the table. Does everyone understand? A yes vote just pulls it back, a no vote just keeps it killed.
okay.
Okay, please call the, what's that?
Does it have to be unanimous or we have to be?
No, just four.
Councilmember Ojala,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Malene,
No.
Councilmember Tudor,
No.
Mayor Carrington,
Yes.
Councilmember Best,
Yes.
Councilmember Alcantara.
Yes.
So that means the motion is back on the table.
Correct.
Okay,
Move to postpone to the next meeting.
regular meeting.
Second.
At that time, I request, thank you.
Is your mic on?
Yeah, even different.
There we go.
At that time, I request that we have a subject matter expert representative from the state to help us discern some of this information as to our options.
So you're directing the manager to do that?
Reach out to the state to bring somebody here.
Just clarifying that.
The caveat that the manager should request help from any elected officials that might be able to help.
But just so it's clear. that's
Yes.
Okay,
Councilman Alcantara?
Oh, do you need a second or did you do that already?
I got, you was the second.
Okay.
Thank you.
So after, Mike is, got endurance. You have ulterior motives is what you're saying? Okay.
That's my interior motive.
Interior motives.
Yeah, Mike Molesky here, live in Palmer, Alaska. I'm not quite sure how to praise my observations here, but what I've noticed, there have been some people who have been able to hold two ideas contrary to one another at the same time. And that's part of quantum theory. You can have two things happening in different places that are different, and that's what I'm watching. I'm watching the unveiling of a new way of doing council meetings, and that's in the quantum form, where people seemingly are going down one road, but at the same time going down the other road. That's confusing. And maybe what I've just described is confusing. But I hold this out to you. There are only two of us here, one staff member, one member of the community. And the rest of the people have fallen away. Now, they do contact you, etc. But they're really looking to have you do the business of the city. And I'm not sure, and I'm qualifying it that way by saying I'm not saying that I see this being particularly inefficient or anything, but I'm not sure the process that is being used here of discussion and chose to be here tonight, in a way, but not really. So I throw that out for your consideration. To think about what's being done here, and I know that there's a content part to the MPO that people have some basically philosophical questions about and so on. And I think there have been expressions of the practical realities, primarily by the mayor and I think Mr. Alcantara, but the practical realities of what's being done here. So I think you can have both ways, to go back to my original position about quantum theory and thinking. You can have it both ways. You can make your point, but you can also take advantage of the practicality of this. And I think that's the important thing to keep in mind. You can do both. You don't have to go either or. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other audience participation? We'll close audience participation. The last thing on the agenda would be council comments. Councilman Ojala, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have much to say tonight. I know this is highly contested here. I did want to put this thing to bed, but I know that there are some more council individuals here that want some more answers, and I can respect that. And I'd like to hear them also if we can get some answers. So I voted no on the MPO simply because that is the most I have heard from people. So that's what I'm going with. Thank you.
All right, Councilman Tudor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to explain my vote on this MPO, since this is kind of the hot topic, enough to support the resolution. And that's why I was also not supportive originally of postponing it, just because I just not in love with the MPO. I don't think anyone here is, and I applaud all the council members here and the mayor for working so hard on this, because we're all very concerned about what this means for the future of Palmer, and we're all looking to make sure that as a elected body that the powers that you've entrusted us with remain intact. So I just want to say thank you to all the council members, whether or not they voted yes or no. I know it was all done with the best interest of the community at heart. Thank you.
Councilman Best.
I appreciate council allowing us to push pause again. I know that this is something that we all would like to get behind us. But the lack of information and the lack of as I stated a couple of meetings back, they're trying, this is a solution in search of a problem, is how it feels. And we're being asked to do something just because. What is the purpose that it's trying to solve? What is it that we're lacking on doing locally or at a state level that it is not doing its job? Because this is just another layer of bureaucracy. And so I cannot continue to go down the path of just adding and creating more bureaucracies.
Deputy Mayor Malene.
Thank you, members, because they're waking up to the fact that hey, this is upon us. This isn't just a yes, sounds good, sounds like a little bit more money for the community. There's more to it than that. And the most recent study that I did was on a contested vote in Virginia. And that was over a city council that voted no, they weren't going to be part of the MPO. And that was last year, and they do not regret it one bit. So I just I want to thank everybody for, I know that sometimes it gets a little heated, but we still tend to remain friends and shake hands afterwards and continue to be nice to each other and help each other when needed in understanding. So, and I too want to thank the attorney for her efforts in laying this out appropriately, because sometimes I think she knows by now how we think. And those visuals are incredibly important for us to be able to process the information. So thank you for that. I do want to say how excited I am for the police department and for the bike patrols and the Bike with a Cop Day. And pretty exciting to see the kids get all excited with the officer coming up with his bike. And it's just really cool coming up with his bike. And it's just really yeah, and that's what I have for now. Thanks.
Did I forget anyone?
Councilman ML this week to maybe find some of these subject matter experts that we need to hear from on the 22nd. I also think having, and I don't know if this is even going to happen on the 22nd, but having the full council here, if that's possible, would be a good thing, because this is a pretty, as has been pointed out, very important vote, and I'm glad we're taking the time. I do want to thank Denise and Kelly again for their donations to the Bike Patrol program. It is a very exciting thing. My anniversary is on August 12th, and I just gave my bike that I got at my wedding day 28 years ago. I just gave it to my son so he can bike from Wasilla to Palmer for his job. So that's my excuse for not being there on Saturday, but I think it's a fantastic program. I look forward to not only the rest of this year, but the re-implementation of it, whether it's on skis or fat tire bikes with snow tires or whatever has to happen, because I think it does add to the community, and I think that's proven by the community members that have shelled money out of their own pocket to make sure that it's successful. So I thank the chief and his staff for getting this thing off the ground, and if the mayor takes less than 3 minutes, we can get out of here by 7:30. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilman Bass.
may I have one more bite at the apple? I apologize.
If it's short.
It'll be real short. I wanted to do a little pat on my daughter's back, if you wouldn't mind. My daughter, who graduated from Career Tech, will be the first returning student to teach at Career Tech. She is the incoming culinary arts teacher. Sienna Griffin. And
Very good. So maybe once after the bike patrol gets going, we can have them on the river. Okay, we're adjourned.
Bye, Sarah. Bye, Sarah.
Good night, all.
Good night.